It's remarkable that whenever you read an article about Yemen in the main media, the central role of Saudi Arabia and the United States in the tragedy is glossed over or completely ignored. A recent Washington Post article purporting to tell us how things got so bad explains to us that it's a complicated story involving warring regional superpowers, terrorism, oil, and an impending climate catastrophe. No, Washington Post, it's simpler than that. The tragedy in Yemen is the result of foreign military intervention in the internal affairs of that country. It started with the Arab Spring, which had all the fingerprints of State Department meddling, and it escalated with 2015's unprovoked Saudi attack on the country to reinstall Riyadh's preferred leader. Thousands of innocent civilians have been killed and millions more are at risk of starvation and cholera rage. We are told that U.S. foreign policy should reflect American values. So how can Washington support Saudi Arabia, a tyrannical state with one of the worst human rights record on earth, as it commits by what any measure is a genocide against the Yemeni people? The UN Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs warned just last week that Yemen faces the largest famine the world has seen for many decades with millions of victims. The Red Cross has just estimated that 1 million people are vulnerable in the cholera epidemic that rages through Yemen. And why is there a cholera epidemic? Because the Saudi government, with U.S. support, has blocked every port of entry to prevent critical medicine from reaching suffering Yemenis. This is not a war. It is cruel murder. The United States is backing Saudi aggression against Yemen by cooperating in every way with the Saudi military. Targeting, intelligence, weapon sales, and more. The U.S. is a partner in Saudi Arabia's Yemen crimes. Does holding hands with Saudi Arabia as it slaughters Yemeni children really reflect American values? Is anyone even paying attention? The claim that we are fighting Al-Qaeda in Yemen and thus our involvement is covered under the post-9/11 authorization for the use of force is without merit. In fact, it has been reported numerous times in the main media that U.S. intervention on behalf of the Saudis in Yemen is actually a boost to Al-Qaeda in the country. Al-Qaeda is at war with the Houthis, who had taken control of much of the country because the Houthis practice a form of Shia Islam they claim is tied to Iran. We are fighting on the same side as Al-Qaeda in Yemen. Adding insult to injury, the U.S. Congress can't be bothered to even question how we got so involved in a war that has nothing to do with us. A few conscientious members of Congress got together recently to introduce a special motion under the 1973 War Powers Act that would have required a vote on our continued military involvement in the Yemen genocide. The leadership of both parties joined together to destroy this attempt to at least get a vote on U.S. aggression against Yemen. As it turns out, the only members to vote against this shamey-gutted resolution were the original members who introduced it. This is bipartisanship at its worst. U.S. involvement in Saudi Arabia's crimes against Yemen is a national disgrace. That the main media fails to accurately cover this genocide is shameful. Let us join our voices now to demand that our U.S. representatives end U.S. involvement in Yemen immediately. Ron Paul is a former U.S. congressman from Texas. This article originally appeared at the Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity and is reprinted here with permission. Please review our comment policy before posting a comment. Thank you for joining the discussion at The New American. We value our readers and encourage their participation, but in order to ensure a positive experience for our readership, we have a few guidelines for commenting on articles. If your post does not follow our policy, it will be deleted. No profanity, racial slurs, direct threats, or threatening language. No product advertisements. Please post comments in English. Please keep your comments on topic with the article. If you wish to comment on another subject, you may search for a relevant article and join or start a discussion there. Comments that we consider abusive, spammy, off-topic, or harassing will be removed. If our filtering system detects that you may have violated our policy, your comment will be placed in a queue for moderation. It will then be either approved or deleted. Once your comment is approved, it will then be viewable on the discussion thread. If you need to report a comment, please flag it and it will be reviewed. Thank you again for being a valued reader of The New American. Copyright 2015 The New American. All rights reserved.